Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's Detransition and you're watching Choice TV. For today's video, I wanted to get on here and talk about Itsbambii. Now for those of y'all who are watching this video, a lot of y'all probably just like, who the fuck is that? Like, I don't know none of these fucking people. Well, if you don't know who Itsbambii is, Itsbambii was a popular media personality, author, and musician on YouTube back in the late 2010s. And essentially, she kind of got popping and blew up on Vine back in 2013, and she really took off in 2014. She was fun, loving, big-spirited, had a large personality, and was known for being crazy. She had a big personality, a vibrant energy, and a lot of people loved her. Well, at the time when she referred to herself as her. So if y'all didn't know, she came out back in 2015 and made a whole YouTube video talking about how they were trans and how they wanted to transition and how they basically wanted to live their truth. And unfortunately, they were met with a lot of backlash, but they also got a lot of love. And that's part of the reason why this person became as popular as they did become.
I had bumped into her friend, and her boyfriend was right there. Her boyfriend was like, watch where your gay ass going, you fag. In front of everybody. I bumped into her in the hallway in front of everybody. And everybody started laughing, and I was so embarrassed. Like, I went straight to class, and I just was so sad for the whole day. And then I went home, and I used to just get so mad at my mom because it's like I was going through it. I just didn't want to tell her, so I would take it out on her because I couldn't take it out on the kids, and I went through this depression mode, and then that's just. Ugh.
And Bambi's story resonated with a lot of people. But what's so interesting about being trans is that it comes with a stigma that many people are not ready for. People used to think that she was just a gay man that was feminine, but come to find out, she felt that she was trans, and she was so sure at the time. However, fast forward to now, she realized that she was never really trans, and she realized deep down inside that it was somewhat of a phase, according to her recent upload.
I don't care about labels. I don't care about all of that stuff. At the end of the day, I know who I am, and this is who I identify as. And I identify as non-binary. So being non-binary, you know, I get to be myself. I really feel like myself. My regret within, you know, being transitioning and all of that type of stuff, identified as transgender, is I felt like that I was always trying to, you know, make people approve of me. I felt like I always would try to make people be like, you know, my pronouns are she, you know, don't call me he, you know, all this type of stuff. And I just will always like put people of this, like, this pedestal of making them think that they were my God.
And I will say that it's not that I'm looking at her like she's crazy. I'm more so looking at her like, damn, it really goes to show you how sometimes when people feel ostracized or alone, they try to cling to a certain label and try to live alongside that label. And my whole perspective about her detransitioning is that's her fucking business. Who the fuck cares? But what's really odd about this, it really just goes to show you that some people really are just going through a phase. Gender dysphoria. It's a real thing. And most people who do identify with trans don't oftentimes get diagnosed. They just assume that they're trans because they feel like because they're different and because they're feminine, this is what they are. And she was so sure. But she spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on surgeries to have breasts. She spent thousands of dollars on, you know, just her whole existence, on hormone pills. And I'm gonna be real with y'all, I really feel like a lot of these doctors are legit exploiting these kids. Because mind you, when she transitioned, she didn't transition at 25. She's 26 years old, and she transitioned at the age of 16 years old. That's when she underwent that hormone therapy. They're literally giving teenagers these pills that's altering their voice and making them grow breasts naturally. They're literally treating these teenagers like lab rats in many cases, because all I can think to myself is, why the fuck is this even allowed for them to even get hormone pills? Now, granted, parental consent is obvious. Like, that definitely needs to be needed and used, and they do exercise parental consent, but they're allowing teenagers to get these fucking pills? That is just crazy to me, just for her to look back 10 years later and say, okay, I made a great mistake. And this is just a common thing that we just oftentimes don't talk about. And let's be real for a second. The conversation of being trans, especially when you're a child, is a little bit of a touchy subject. Maybe she just wanted to be somebody completely different because she didn't like who she was or what her life was. Sometimes kids go through multiple phases because they don't even like who they are, and they feel like if they were a completely different person, maybe they'd feel better. But sometimes when people say that they're trans, it's best to usually support them because they oftentimes go through a lot of things like mood swings and mental health issues. And it's so bad to the point where a lot of them genuinely want to take their own lives. And then also keep in mind her dating life wasn't very successful. It sucks to say, but a lot of people in the trans community don't have the best reputation with dating because there is still a heavy stigma on trans people. It just is what it is because a lot of trans people tend to go after or be interested in straight men.
So recently I just was like in a dating life with somebody, and this person I was talking to, we had like a really good situationship and all this good stuff and all this stuff, but I could never be that perfect, candidate for this person. And it made me sit back and reflect like, oh my goodness, what is going on? But I realized that it wasn't me, it just was like a bad situation. So I healed, I got myself from it, and I just really just was on like a different wave. But people was asking me and his family, because I met his family, and they was like, they was accepting to it, but it was like kind of like new to them, so they had a lot of questions. Like they was asking me, okay, so you as a trans woman, do you get a menstrual cycle? Do you have periods and all this stuff? If you get bottom surgery, would you be able to have kids for him? And I'm like, hold up. Let me do the science experiments, the give you the lab work within it, the credentials of it. Well, at that time when they asked me that, my mind just was like, I was too shocked to speak. Like I just was like, are you serious? Are you serious right now? I was literally like that. I'm like, okay. But it was a good question. If you're new to it, it's a good question.
And what's even crazier is she looks insane. What's interesting about Bambi is she literally took multiple breaks on YouTube throughout the years. And if you go on her YouTube channel, her engagement is fucking horrible. She has over 1 million followers on YouTube, and she literally struggles just to break almost 2,000 views sometimes. Her followers have essentially checked out because due to the mental spiral she's gone through and due to a lot of the weird publicity stunts she's done, many of her fans have checked out because when they showed up for her, she didn't necessarily show up for them. And I remember I made a lot of videos about her spiraling because she was doing a lot of really creepy and weird things where, for one, she was getting into a weird public relationship and she was pretty much putting her entire business on the forefront. And then it was very clear that she was trying to orchestrate this whole relationship to pretty much capitalize into the mainstream world. Like she was basically using her relationship as a way to make videos, to make content.
Then what the fuck are you saying? And it's laying to your hair, son Gray. I'm sorry I couldn't hold it in the tears and everything. And I love every single one of you for supporting me. Oh my God, this makes me so... This is so humiliating!
Make more viewership, get more money, and then she also tried to make a diss track when things fell apart. And when she was making music, it wasn't even good. She was making music that was just creepy and low vibrational, and she had this big ass wig on and she had like this ugly ass face, and she very much gave me like, sleep paralysis demon that hides behind the corner of my bed. She just looked crazy as fuck. So as time went on, it kind of is very obvious why she spiraled the way she did into substances. So this goes into a deeper conversation. It's really common for me to go on the internet nowadays and see a lot of parents allow their children to exist as trans. Now, it's one thing for your child to want to exist as trans if they legitimately are grown as fuck and are able to do their own thing. But when your child actually wants to undergo hormone therapy and pills and bottom and top surgery, that's when I'd be like, oh my God, are you out of your fucking rabbit ass mind? It's crazy how a lot of parents will allow this kind of shit. What's even sadder about this is she even made it clear that she thought she was sure And this kind of reminds me of another YouTuber I used to watch. So I'll say maybe like a year or two ago, this YouTuber I used to watch named Tyler Vine came forth and said that they thought that they were meant to be a boy, but the whole time they realized they made a grave mistake castrating their entire body. Now, this particular YouTuber who I've talked about in a video before literally underwent so much surgery. They literally got their breasts removed. They made up a whole name. They wanted to be referred to as a boy, him, he. Then went through a point where they literally got the bottom surgery. Now, if y'all didn't know what bottom surgery is and how bad it is, it's a little bit excruciating. And this is why I want to go even deeper about how I feel like a lot of these doctors are literally treating these trans children as lab rats. That's why when I see this kind of stuff, I'd be like, oh my God, like, bitch, you were a fucking victim by the fucking pharmaceutical companies. Like, they literally treat a lot of these people like lab rats, just give them pills because they want a consistent customer for years. Because when you undergo hormone therapy and you are a trans person, you're getting medical care for it, you're a client for life. You constantly have to be dependent on those substances and those pills to literally have your voice change, to grow breasts, and so much more.
It's like I'm mourning an entire life that should have been mine. That was my birthright. I don't know how this happened to me. And I'm just so angry. And I'm so sad. Like, I just don't know how this happened. Like a virus or something, it just like infected me, and it happened so quickly. And it was like I was right there, like agreeing to every single thing, and I don't know how that happened. Then now I can sit here and like look back and be like, why did I do that? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. If I just would have waited. If I just would have waited. If I just would have waited and let myself heal. I can't have kids. I'll never lose my virginity. Like, I feel like I'm left to just like accept the scraps of the life that I could have had. I had this full life that I'm now having to mourn, while also living in the present moment with the life that like feels just like the scraps of what could have been. I don't know how to be happy in that. You know, I don't know how to be okay with that. I hate when people are like, everything happens for a reason. Like, no, this didn't happen for a reason. You know, it's just a tragedy. Just call it what it is. I don't want to use the word indoctrinated, but I was young and I was sad and I was impressionable, and I thought that this would fix everything. And transitioned, lived as trans for 8 years, had top surgery, a full hysterectomy, bottom surgery, went all the way as far as one could go, and then woke up and realized that I made the biggest fucking mistake of my life. I was so sure. You know, it's just crazy.
Now, of course, that video went viral and it has since been deleted, but I feel like I had to really bring it up because this particular YouTuber that I watched that goes by, I don't know, like 50 different names at this point, basically underwent a lot of surgery. They didn't just do hormone blockers and take pills and change their voice. This particular YouTuber actually went through bottom surgery. So initially this YouTuber was born a woman, and then when she was a teenager, she basically got a dick. So she basically had what, if you guys didn't know, it's called a phalloplasty. Now, a phalloplasty is what a lot of times surgeons use for a lot of transgender men. So if you're a woman transitioning to be a man, most cases, doctors will oftentimes tear pieces of your skin and try to mold a penis. So basically, if you're a woman transitioning to be a man, they will rip pieces of your skin. As you can see, he has, or she has, pieces of her skin removed from her arm. And the pieces of her skin were removed from her arm in order to form a penis, because the skin on your arm, the thinner layers, are very similar to the skin that's oftentimes found on a penis. And he endured this surgery at a very, very young age, to the point where he was able to have a penis and he was able to, you know, function with it, you know, have intimacy with it. So the skin was removed from his arm, and in most cases, most trans people oftentimes choose their thigh. So you could choose your arm or your thigh, and this procedure is damn near over $15,000. It's very expensive, and he raised tons of money on the internet and on his own personal needs to fund these surgeries. And it's really unfortunate to hear him circle back and say that he really does regret going through all this stuff, and now he wants to detransition and now be referred to as a woman. And the opposite of that is a vaginoplasty, which basically, if you're a, you know, man transitioning to be a woman, you can now have a vaginoplasty, which has been around for decades, where basically they remove your dingling and they turn it inside out, they remove it, and they basically turn it into a clitoris. And yeah, so I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want this video to get taken down, but yeah. But I got to be honest with you. I kind of understand why a lot of parents feel pressure to do it, because let's be real, a lot of people who identify with being trans, they go through an excruciating amount of anxiety, depression, and sadness because they see themselves as something that they're not. It's like similar to being anorexic. No matter how much you lose weight, you still see yourself as a fat person until you actually see somebody take a picture of you and you realize how tiny you are. Because to be honest, I do support the idea that if your kid wants to be referred to as she, her, they, them, whatever the fuck, let them do that. Who the fuck cares? I'll never forget there was this other author. If y'all don't know who Jodie Patterson is, Jodie Patterson is a very famous New York City based author. And essentially, I'll never forget when she came out and said that her child was trans. She got a ton of backlash, but she was met with a lot of praise by the LGBT plus community. But I always look at that and I think to myself, bitch, what? Not to be disrespectful to her, but she found out and felt like her child was trans by the time her child was 2 years old. She then realized that it was best to let her child exist as a boy by the time they were 3-4 years old.
I think when people like say, well, how does Penelope know that he's a boy at age 2? And I would say, well, when did you realize you were a woman? It was like crystal clear what he was saying. I don't want to be you, mama. I want to be papa. I want a doctor to make me a peanut. I don't want boobs. I do remember at that moment in my head not considering Penelope she anymore.
Did you have to change that thinking and that, first of all, focus on Penel?
The first thought that went through my mind was how I failed my child. I thought that I had failed to raise a proud girl, failed to raise a feminist. My family developed pride in all of my sisters. And so I really sank. Usually moms and women, we have a way forward, we have a path. And in that moment, I had no answers for Penelope. So I really sank.
So you blamed yourself?
I blamed myself, and I sat on that guilt for about a year. And at the end of the year, I couldn't do anything else but go home to my mom in the South. I went back down south to try to put the pieces back together and put it in perspective. Right? I put dresses on. I stuck to my perspective. I insisted that Penelope be smart, happy girl. And Penelope rejected that, refused that, cried. Every night we had temper tantrums, nail biting until the nails were bloody. The attempt to make Penelope see himself as a girl failed miserably. He became a sad and dark child.
How old is he now?
He's 11.
Yes, she allowed her child to transition by the time her child was 3-4 years old, such as cutting their hair differently, letting them dress differently. And I remember I saw these interviews and these documentaries a long time ago and thought to myself, okay, that's a little fucking intense. But then, to be honest with you, when you hear her explanation as to why she allowed her child to act that way, I understand. A lot of trans people have a lot of fucked up mental health issues. Not even just the gender dysphoria thing, but some of them deal with things like bipolar, anxiety, depression. Some of them have to deal with a lot of crazy things such as crazy mood swings. And they just always hate what they see to the point where it makes them want to demolish what they see in the mirror. And if you constantly hate what you see in the mirror and you constantly hate how you're being perceived and seen, you're going to feel compelled to constantly change it. I don't think this is just some evil shit that, is being forced on kids and shit like that. I think it's some scary shit that the pharmaceutical companies have to be condemned and held accountable for. So when I see all these protests of people trying to fight against the idea of their kids transitioning and fight against the idea of, allowing children to take hormone pills, because yes, a teenager and a child can take hormone pills if they do get permission and they do undergo therapy. It makes me kind of understand more and more as time goes on and as I do get a lot more mature why a lot of parents try to fight against that shit, because it is kind of creepy and weird. And I do think the pharmaceutical companies are trying to help, but they're also trying to make a profit as well, because these hormone pills, they're not fucking cheap. They're ridiculously expensive, and they're so expensive to the point where a lot of people are getting them on the black market. Whatever she wants to be called, or he or they or whatever they identify as wants to be called, then they, them is entitled to be happy and do what the hell makes them feel comfortable. But we got to have a very serious conversation about how sometimes this really could be a phase for a lot of people. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but I am saying that I really hope some people address this with sensitivity. And I kind of hope that less and less people stop being critical when those question the narrative. I think we should start pointing our conversations towards the pharmaceutical companies. And if we can go even deeper, a lot of this could even be stemming from other things that we don't really talk about. But hey, that's another video for another day. I'm sure the comments are going to be going hard in the paint and are going to be real spicy, but I don't give a fuck. That's that for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, that's that. Troyce out this bitch. Holding hands, making plans, and it's lucky for me to understand what a girl wants, what a girl needs, whatever makes me happy sets you free, and I'm thanking you for how things happen. What a girl wants, what a girl needs, whatever makes me happy sets you free, and I'm thanking you for everything. Ooh, yeah, what a girl wants, what a girl needs. Ooh, what a girl wants, what a girl needs.